Hare Krishna, thank you for coming today to Amsterdam Sunday Feast. Today's lecture will be given by Her Grace Prana Mataji, well known for a Sunday Feast school, Sunday school for kids nowadays. But it's not the first time you are giving lecture, right, Mataji? It is. It is, so Haribol. So we are very curious about what she's going to tell us. Let's give a big Haribol! If you can come with me to walk over. Geef een beetje volgen.
So, dear devotees and guests and friends of Krishna, heartily welcome to this Sunday feast. Actually, it's a very nice place to be. Before I became a devotee, I was always thinking in Amsterdam, what is the hottest place to be? And always when I was somewhere, I thought, no, there must be some better place. You know this feeling? You're somewhere and you think, oh, must be some better place. But actually, now you found it. This is actually the best place to be in all the Netherlands, under the protecting lotus feet of Sri Gaura. So it's very, very fortunate that you're here. I will ask you for your blessings and mercy, because you can help me, you can really help me to say something nice and useful. I also ask for forgiveness, because probably I will offend you during my lecture, and I'm sorry for that. Please give feedback afterwards. We have time for interaction discussion, because I think that's always makes it nicer. So we start the Sunday lectures always with a nice song, Jai Radha Madhava. But this time I would like to start with a different song, because it's also very related with the theme of today's lecture. And it's also nice before you start a song to know something about the background of the song, to connect. So I prepared some context. I think you can see. Yes, the song we're going to sing is Bhajahu Vemana, and the author is Govinda Das Kaviraj. Govinda Das Kaviraj was a Bengal Vaishnava poet who lived in the 16th century, so a long time ago. And he was a very elevated devotee, because he and his brother were disciples of Srinivasacharya. And if you look at our altar on the middle step, you see a picture in the middle of 5 figures with their hands raised. That's our Panchatattva. And the person on the most right side, that's Srinivasacharya. So he was a direct associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So actually this author was his disciple. So quite an elevated soul. That's your spiritual master. Also, after he wrote this song, Bhajahu Vemana, he sent it to Srila Jiva Goswami. And if you look at our altar, you see the Parampara, and above there's a picture of the 6 Goswamis. And they are also very elevated personalities who are personally instructed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go to Vrindavan and to write literature, so that we in this age can understand actually this philosophy. They not only wrote literature in Vrindavan, but they brought Vrindavan back for us to experience. Because, for instance, Raghunath Goswami, the one most on the left, he excavated Radhakund and Shyamakund, and because of him we can see it as they are now. So they're also very elevated personalities. And Govindadas Kaviraj, he sent this song to Srila Jiva Goswami, and Srila Jiva Goswami gave a reaction, and his reaction was, continue to compose kirtans like these, you are very qualified. So you should compose more and more and send them to me in Vrindavan. Oh, that's quite a reaction he got. And also, he deserved, by composing this song, an honorary title because he's called Govindadas Kaviraj. Kavi means poet and Raj is king. So Kaviraj was an honorable title given in ancient India to poets who worked at the royal court. So you could say that Vajravemana was one of his masterpieces. So how do we detect a masterpiece? Like if you look at nowadays literature, for instance Shakespeare, we still read Shakespeare in universities, we still see his plays. Why is that? Actually because the themes, it's very distracting, because the themes of Shakespeare really speak to us nowadays. His poetry, his topics are still relevant. And that's also what happens with these Vaishnavacharyas. The topics they speak of, they're still very relevant to us. And I think you can find also some solace in these songs. Like, I don't know about you, but probably you listen to music sometimes and you have a certain song for a certain mood. Like when you're sad, you listen to a certain kind of music. When you're angry, when you're really happy. So this happens, but this is mostly in our mundane setting. But we also have many Vaishnavacharyas who have so many songs in different moods, which can really connect to and give us solace. So that's what I want to share about this author. And then it's nice to read the translation. Anyone who would like to read the first verse?
Oh, mine just worship the lotus feet of the son of Nanda, which make one fearless, having obtained this real human birth, cross over this ocean of worldly existence through the association of some people.
Very nice. And what is very interesting, he's addressing his mind as a separate entity. So you have you and you have the mind. You know, you should really try to keep that in mind, actually. He's addressing his mind as a separate entity. Yes. Okay, the second one, anyone you want to read?
Both in the day and at night remain sleepless, suffering the pains of the heat and cold, the wind and the rain for fraction of flickering happiness. I have uselessly savored wicked and miserly men.
Yes, so the Vedas talk about three forms of miseries: Adhyatmika, Adhibautika, and Adhidaivika. Adhyatmika, Atma, is the miseries we cause ourselves. Like we see in this world, actually, for instance, in the Netherlands, most people have an okay life. They have something to eat, they have a roof, and still there are a lot of mental problems. So a big portion of the problems we have are the problems we give ourselves, Adhyatmika. Then it's Adhibautika, it's the problems with other living entities. Well, where should I start? Everybody who has a relationship with other living entities?
Mosquitoes.
Yes, for instance. Yes, you always have problems. And then you have Adidaivika, and that Daivi is the word demigods. So the demigods, they actually take care of this universe, and because we don't care for them and their worship properly, we get a lot of problems. And now, when you look at the news, I don't know how many calamities we have in this world due to disasters of nature. So these are all disasters brought to us, upon us by the demigods. So actually this is still very relevant, this verse, although it was written in the 16th century. So the third verse, you want to read?
What assurance of real happiness is there in all of one's wealth, youthfulness, sons and family members? This life is tottering like a drop of water on a lotus petal. Therefore you should always serve and worship the divine feet of Lord Hari.
Very beautiful poetry, because have you ever seen a drop of water tottering on a lotus petal? Like first it goes really slow and then it goes faster and faster. So that's how life goes. Like my youngest daughter, she's turning 11 in January, and she said to me, "Mom, I do not particularly care about 11, only it brings me closer to 18. While my eldest daughter, she's 22, and she says to my youngest, "Look, you shouldn't want to grow up so fast, because now I'm 22, I have all these responsibilities. I was better off when I was 10. So imagine us, you can, years are gliding so fast and faster and faster. So this verse is very beautiful because it shows that the older you get, the faster it seems that life is gliding you by. Okay, then we have the last verse. You want to?
It is the desire and great longing of Govinda Dasa to engage himself in the 9 processes of bhakti, namely hearing the glories of Lord Hari and chanting those glories, constantly remembering him and offering prayers to him, serving the Lord's lotus feet, serving the Supreme Lord as a servant, worshipping him with flowers and incense and so forth, serving him as a friend and completely offering the Lord's one's very self.
Yeah, very nice. So here is the Sanskrit, Sravana, Kirtana, Smarana, Vandana, the 9 processes of devotional services. They are told to us by Prahlad Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam. And you know what's so nice about these 9 processes? And the Prabhupada says in some of his lectures, there are 9 processes, please follow them. If you cannot follow 9, please follow 6. If you cannot follow 6, please follow 3. If you cannot follow 3, please just follow 1. And the one he asks us to follow is Ravana. It's listening. It's very easy for us to do. In whatever state you are, condition, wherever, you can always listen. And there are so many things to listen to in our movement now. There are so many different lectures. According to your taste and mood, you can always listen, and then you're actually doing devotional service. So it's very nice for us to know that we can always do something. Okay, so now you have the context of the song. I think it's time to sing it.
Can you also put it on the screen? Okay, put the text on the screen also.
I don't think we have it.
Oh, okay, because we cannot all see it from here.
I'm sorry. I didn't prepare it. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I think we have it here also.
Vivek.
Srila Prabhupada. It's very short. It comes from the website Vani Code. Also nice to give you some context with that. Vani quotes are all shorts of Srila Prabhupada's quotes, which are maximum 1 minute. So 1 minute or less. And Vani is the Sanskrit word for a word. And Srila Prabhupada always said that Vani is more important than Vapu. Vapu means physical forms. So sometimes we can say, oh, we were not there in the days, or even, at least not in this body, we were not close to Srila Prabhupada, we were not there in the beginning of the movement. It doesn't matter. Srila Prabhupada gives us the opportunity to have very intimate relationship with him through his Vani. And these quotes, although they are 1 minute or less, very, very powerful. So if you could spare 1 minute of your day listening to a quote, I thought you have these calendars, right? You tear off every day, so you could, that's actually a good New Year's resolution. But just 1 minute. I started this, it was a challenge for my daughter actually. We listened to 2 quotes a day. And it's really like changing if you just try and listen to 2 quotes a day. So I think actually that's the best way to listen to the lecture. I hope the sound is okay. This is actually a purport about the song. Srila Prabhupada gave many purports about this song.
Bhajapuri mana Srinanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare. Bhaja means worship. Who? Hello. Mana, mind. The poet Govinda Das, a great philosopher and a devotee of the Lord, he is praying, he is requesting his mind, because mind is the friend and mind is the enemy of everyone. If one can train his mind in Krishna consciousness, then he is successful. If he cannot to train his mind, then in life he is failure.
Wat zei hij als laatste?
And your life is failure.
Failure.
Yes. So, funny quotes. If you want to remember one thing of this lecture today, and you go to funny quotes, I will be very satisfied. So then, I think you already guessed the theme of today. It is the mind. A very important aspect. Srila Prabhupada talks about it frequently. And also Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 6.5 and 6.6 says something about the mind. Actually the same as Srila Prabhupada in his purpose. You should deliver yourself with the help of your mind. The mind can be a friend. Look, someone's mind is really upset right now. Happens really. Cannot control the mind. Okay, so it's interesting because Krishna says the same thing. The mind can be your friend and your enemy as well. And then, exact words of Srila Prabhupada, if you conquer the mind, it's the best of friends. If you fail to do so, it will remain your greatest enemy. That's actually very interesting because in our daily life, we usually have friends and enemies, but we don't have someone who can be a friend and an enemy. How is that possible? I learned this word from my children, that's frenemy. That's an enemy posing as a friend, but that's still an enemy. So it's very interesting that Krishna gives here, there is something, a mind, very powerful entity, it can be a friend and enemy. How is this possible? And then Arjuna, later in that chapter, he says something I think is very recognizable for all of us, that the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, very strong, and it is difficult to subdue it. I think it's more difficult than controlling the wind. How many times we have that we did something we regret later. I think it happens to all of us. And then sometimes we know that we shouldn't do it, and we do it. So what's this? I think we have more experience with the mind, like Arjuna tells it, than as Krishna tells it. So it's very important that we try to investigate what is this mind. And if there is something I would like to impress on your minds today, is that the mind is a real energy. It's subtle, you cannot see it. Prabhupada says it's like your underclothes, so they're not visible, but it's real. And that is very important because in our movement, we had sometimes, not nowadays so much, that people just try to discard the mind, like never mind, just suppress. But we all saw that that doesn't really go anywhere, so we cannot suppress it. And the other thing in our movement, what I would also like, that was one of the reasons I wanted to speak on this theme, is that sometimes we say, oh, yes, the Vedas, ancient, but nowadays we have modern problems, so we need modern techniques or philosophies, or we need modern therapy. You know, I'm not against any form of therapy, but I'm just saying that actually all the philosophy we need, also for our modern day problems, are in the Vedas, but we just have to study it. Okay, so the mind is real. Then my other point is, the mind, the origin of the mind, is the mode of goodness. That is also actually very important to remember. Why? Well, I want to take you quickly, like refreshing your memory. What are the modes? Like, we're living in this world, you could like compare it to a matrix. Due to our karma, we have three different modes we live in. The mode of goodness, sattva, rajas, mode of passion, tamas, mode of ignorance. Those modes are always working on us. And how you can see that in yourself or in other people, like, for instance, now it's almost New Year, and there are many people who do New Year's resolutions, right? Who has any things he wants to improve about himself for the new year? Yes. Well, sometimes they're goal-oriented, but sometimes they're also character-oriented. Then people think, okay, I'm going to live healthy, I'm going to don't drink any nonsense, don't eat any rubbish, I'm going to live a good and healthy life. Okay, mode of goodness. So, we can position ourselves in the mode of goodness. Then we're content in the mode of goodness. But the material mode of goodness is limited. And we, spirit souls, are unlimited. So after a while, if we stay in the material mode of goodness, what happens? We get bored. We think, isn't there something else? Isn't there something new? Something else. I want to plan something. That's already mode of passion creeping in. Okay, and then the mind starts working. We have a new project. I work very hard. Oh, we haven't arrived at the mode of ignorance yet. So, Rajas, working hard, trying to get some fruits. We all know that, right? Very enthusiastic. And then two things can happen. Either we get the fruits, like I saw this quote from a very known actor, I don't know if you know him, his name is Jim Carrey, he's quite well known. He said, I wish that everybody could be as rich as I am and as famous, just to know, to realize that that doesn't make you happy. So whatever amount we achieve, ultimately doesn't bring us happiness. That's the one thing that could happen. But the other thing that could happen is we work so hard, and we don't get what we want. So we get frustrated, we get angry, we get bitter, we get depressed. What's then happening with the modes? That's the mode of ignorance creeping in. And then sometimes we just let go. We just zoom off the mind, let life pass over us. I don't care anymore, I cannot do anything anymore, I just sleep, I just indulge myself. That's the state of the mode of ignorance. But then, after a while, we get sick of ourselves, right? And it's like, okay, I don't want to be this again. I want to have goals. I want to be good again. Okay, then we start. Mode of goodness. So this is a cycle. It's also called the cycle of frustration. And actually, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I'm the one who's conducting these modes, and everyone in all the universes are working on this mode. So you can't escape. Really, you cannot escape. There's only one way. So, if there are these three modes, and we go in a cycle through them, why, could you ask me, is it good that the mind is in the mode of goodness? Why should we be in the mode of goodness if it's only material and we're going through this cycle? Well, there is something that can happen only in the mode of goodness. So the Prabhupada says, the mode of goodness is compared to an airport. Now, usually you go to an airport if you want to go somewhere, right? So, it is possible from the mode of goodness to transcend to a transcendental mode of goodness. It's called Vasudeva Sattva, or the Turiya state, the fourth state. So actually, we need this mode of goodness. We need our mind in the mode of goodness. That's what Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita. You need to deliver yourself with the help of the mind. When the mind is in the mode of goodness, it can help us, it can deliver us to go to transcendental goodness, which is unlimited and which will bring us satisfaction. Okay, if we have established that the mind is originally good and we really need it to transcend our consciousness, then it's really nice to study why is it then possible that we sometimes feel like we cannot control the mind. What directs the mind? Okay. The thing that directs the mind is desires. The mind is a storehouse of our desires. Some desires are very prominent. Like, I'm sorry, I talk a lot about my children, but yeah, I'm a mom. But my children, like I have 2 girls and a boy. My girls started dressing themselves like from a very young age, and they were very particular about what they dressed. My son wasn't really that bothered. So you can see that's a surface desire which is really socially accepted. And we all have these surface desires. But the mind is a storehouse. So all the desires are stored in the subconscious. I hope you really can follow this point. Every impression of every life you ever had is stored somewhere in your mind from unlimited desires. So we don't know a lot of our desires. We have no idea because it's all in our subconscious. So like in Western psychology, if you have a problem, you have to lay on the couch and you have to tell all your desires. Actually, we can't because we don't know even our desires. Okay, so what happens then sometimes? Because if we are in the mode of goodness and we are trying to live as a devotee, then our surface mind can be very peaceful. But something can happen and we feel very disturbed. So what's happening then? Actually, Srila Prabhupada says, just like in the water, in the pond, sometimes you will find all of a sudden one bubble comes up from within. This means that the dirty things from within are starved. So the mind can look like a pond, very peaceful. Our service mind is peaceful, everything is peaceful. And then suddenly, without any external cause, we can feel very agitated. It is true, it happens from within. That's also why we, in dreams, we can dream about things we have never seen in real. Like, a golden mountain, for instance. Well, actually, Mount Meru is golden, but if we have ever seen that, I don't know. But we can put together in our dreams things that are we have never seen, but the mind puts things together. We don't even need sense impressions to have the mind working. Okay. So how should we deal with these desires? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into an ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. So, it's not only that we already have so many desires in our mind, but it's also, it comes in all the time because of our impressions. We start to contemplate. First you never thought about a new car, but then your neighbor has a Tesla, and then you suddenly think, oh, that's a nice car, I also should get one. It's constant flowing. So Krishna says we shouldn't be disturbed by that. But is that really how we feel most of the times, that we're not disturbed by these desires? Well, I'm not. I feel more like this. This is a glass of water. And if the desires are flowing in all the time from all our sense impressions, what happens to the glass of water? It pours over. So the desires arise, these are all material desires. And we should know, desire is a function of the soul, and it's not a bad thing, because it is the soul yearning for love, actually, that's the desire. But we are not putting it in the right consciousness, because we are not yearning for Krishna. We think we can get this love through all these material things, and this mind is working like anything to satisfy it. All these desires were crying like babies, satisfy me, satisfy me. But it never works. So the mind is thinking, if you want to control it, why do you want to control it? These are your desires. I'm trying to satisfy. So what happens then? Because if you have a desire that first appears in a seed form, like for instance, you see your neighbor having a Tesla, you think about that, you start to contemplate that. And then there are two forms of karma. One, I think Bhakta karma, we all know, that's the manifest reaction. Like, if you steal, eventually there's a big chance you get caught. That's obvious karma. But there's another form of karma, which is interesting for us to know, and that is called aparapta karma. It's like this. If a young boy falls into the wrong association, like with friends, and the friends all say to him, you should steal, that's really cool. In some countries they call it 5-finger discount. You should steal. Then the first time that young boy steals, he doesn't really feel good about it. But when his friends are like enthusiastically saying, yeah, you should do it, then he starts to feel, after a while, he starts to feel good about it. That's already a form of karma. So your sinful desires, or that you already feel nice to do something which actually is not good for you, that's already a form of karma, what's happening in your mind. Okay. So, how do we get desires? We get desires by impressions. How do we get these impressions? We have all these senses, right? The eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, and active senses, hands, legs. So we have all these senses. And I told you before, even if you've shut down all the senses, the mind is perfectly capable of bringing up his own desires. So the word for impression is samskara. I think many of you know this word. We have some nice ceremonies in our Krishna consciousness, like Vivaya Samskara. It's like the marriage ceremony. But actually, the real meaning of samskara means impression. So your mind gets all these impressions, and from there the desires arise. So we can choose, actually, if we want these impressions to be material or spiritual. And that's why this Krishna consciousness is such a complete philosophy, because we offer everything. Like, if you see the deity, that's a samskara for your eyes. If you smell a flower, that's a samskara for your nose. If you hear the kirtan, that's something for your ears. If you eat prasadam, it's samskara for your tongue. So we, in this whole culture, we offer everything. Because like I said before, it's no use to cut off the mind. The mind needs impressions. So here, we fill it. Choose what you want, choose what you like. And we all have this devotional life in which we have all impressions we need. Okay. So, to round it up, the mind is the chief of our senses. There are 10 senses, 5 knowledge-acquiring senses, 5 active senses. There are 5 sense objects. In total, there are 16 material elements. All these material elements are containing the soul. We are stuck in these elements, and we have no way by going through these elements by ourselves. But what did we receive from Srila Prabhupada? The Mahamantra. How many names does the Mahamantra consist of? 60 names. So we break the 60 coverings by saying the 60 names. So we can supercharge the soul. Let's try. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's like you're plugging the soul into your spiritual outlet. It's like you're recharging. Like now, we are spirit, and there are always questions. How can the spirit come on the material nature? If we are spiritual, how can we come on the material nature? It's because we're weak. Yes, we're spirit, but we're very tiny. So we need to recharge ourselves. We need to recharge our battery. That's why we have to chant. And Krishna and Srila Prabhupada made it so easy for us to chant. And actually, sometimes devotees don't really like this answer because they say, yeah, it's always about chanting, but it actually is always about chanting. And if you don't like the answer, that means we don't chant enough. So the chanting is the answer for everything, because it gives us something positive and it blocks us from something negative. And what's so nice in this philosophy that you can always chant. Doesn't matter where you are, you can always chant. And if you feel like you can't chant, you can desire to chant, because the soul is desire. And if you feel like, okay, I'm not so sincere, I cannot really sincerely desire to chant, you can desire to chant. And if you feel like you can't do that, you can desire to desire to desire. There's always something you can desire, because that's actually the only thing we can do as souls, like desire. So if you keep that in mind and you start investigating this philosophy is so very interesting. It keeps you going, so start investigating. Don't be like dull-headed and don't think you can't do it, because you can. And even if you can't read, like I also have difficulties reading Srimad Bhagavatam, because then sometimes you get so tired, but then you listen. If you listen to, or you watch. Like there's a whole YouTube series on following Srila Prabhupada. It's like a soap. I mean, there's so much material from that time. It's amazing how devotees cultivate all that. I was watching that every evening before going to sleep. It's better than scrolling in your Insta. So there's always something you can do. And that's what Srila Prabhupada brings really nicely forth in this philosophy, that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what status of life you're in, it doesn't matter how you feel, you can always do something. And Srila Prabhupada says, if you deposit 1 cent every day, then at one point it becomes $100. So if you do something every day, doesn't matter what, then you feel better, you can become a devotee. And that's what Krishna promises us. So, actually, I want to say that my inspiration for this lecture, of course, Srila Prabhupada, but Sotra Swami he wrote a book on psychology, and he gave 2 seminars. Because what I did in this lecture, I just took very small bits from his seminars, but his seminars are really extended. So if you feel up to it, I can recommend you looking on YouTube, find the seminars. There are 2 on Vedic psychology in Czech and in New Zealand. He really goes into much more detail about the functions of the mind, which are also very interesting, and how Bhakti Yoga actually is very healthy for the mind. So I can recommend that. And if you want to do it, I have some with me. I think that was it. I think we leave time open for questions or comments or additions. Yes?
Yes, first of all, thank you for your nice class. Very interesting topic in mind. It's one of the most important things we have to do. You already mentioned something about that we cannot switch off the mind. But it's always good to realize, it's good to realize that there are all kinds of deviant philosophies, like impersonalism, the Mayavadi philosophies, that actually try to switch off the mind. And they say the solution to our mind problems is annihilating it. But that is totally unnatural, because the soul has to be active. And you cannot, first of all, you can never maintain that. Second of all, it's very boring. And it's unnatural. And there are plenty more reasons why our solution, and that is the best, is that we engage the mind in the good things, in Krishna. And so that is actually being active, and at the same time we control the mind in that way.
Yeah, nice addition. Actually, the fact when we want to shut everything off, because sometimes people ask, do you have a mind in the spiritual world? And that question usually comes from frustration, because we suffer so much from the mind here. We think, oh no, what's happening there? But actually, you're right. It's very nice to have a mind if the mind works as it's supposed to be. And we can reform our minds by chanting Hare Krishna, by practicing devotional service.
And we have a mind in the spiritual world.
Yes, we have, because we are persons.
The spiritual body
yes.
is also composed
spiritual
of
senses.
functions.
Yes. But it comes from frustration. Like people, like my daughter was very sick. She was so sick, and she said, I want to cut out my tongue because it was very when we're so frustrated with something, we want to cut it out. But that's not the way. We don't get less frustrated by that. We have to yield things. Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Mataji, when you mentioned tamas, rajas, sattva, like in the rajas there was a mention of charity. I know like it was all the bad qualities over there, but charity was also there. Maybe I missed it, but I've explained. In what sense it has mentioned there?
Well, actually, those qualities are also have a spiritual form in which they are not really bad. Like our intelligence is in Rajas. Lord Brahma is in Rajas because he has to create the universe. So we use that in a way of Krishna's service. And charity, like the Kshatriyas, are also in Rajas because they are the protectors. And they also do charity. So these qualities in a purified form are not bad. But in our material state, we suffer from that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone?
Yeah, I think it's so nice because when you talk about sattvic, automatically that is good, and then the rajas and tamas, that is bad. Automatically my mind will
in the material form it is, because tamas and rajas cannot bring us to the Sudasattva state. So we practice all these Brahminical qualities like cleanliness and austerity. We do that because we can become more in the mode of goodness, and then it's easier to transcend. That's why we try to become more in the mode of goodness. But it's like in the spiritual sense, there are these modes, and they're in a pure form. Lord Shiva is the Lord of destruction, tamas.
Yeah.
That's Lord Shiva. So it's nice, and that's actually also in the seminar, so it's nice you mentioned that. We can help ourselves, if we are in this mode, to think about presiding deities over this mode, to help us purify. So actually, because we are always in contact with Krishna, even when we're in deep sleep or dreaming, that's also in the seminars, we're in contact with Krishna. Because Krishna also has deep sleep, but it's not ignorance like ours, but it's Mahavishnu who lays on the causal ocean, it's deep sleep. So if we think about that, we become purified.
The Guna Avatar.
Yes.
Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. I didn't know how much time I didn't practice the whole lecture. So 10 more minutes.
No, but it was really good, Mataji. It was like experienced professor giving it. It
Wow.
was really nice.
Okay, I think what I could add is, maybe this is also a nice point. The mind has three functions: thinking, feeling, and willing, Srila Prabhupada says. And in our modern psychology, it's called cognitive, and affective. So actually, the thinking part of the mind is we contemplate. We see something, we say, oh, this is a nice book, I haven't seen this color before. That's the thinking mode. Then we have the cognitive, the active mode, is that our mind really pushes us to do something. Really, if you consider this, all your actions, before you do something, you are contemplating in your mind. Before you buy this new pair of trousers, you were thinking about it. You were maybe researching. So it all happens in your mind. But what's interesting, the most important function of the mind is affection. Affection. Because we decide everything on affection. Even the most learned scholars, like they say, I'm very rational, I do everything by scholarship, by philosophy, but still, before they go into that, they decide if they like something or not. That is affection. So actually, the chief function of our mind is affection. That's emotions. And what's really nice about this process of bhakti is that it is like a glue for the emotions to attach to Krishna.
It's like a what, sorry?
A glue.
Glue.
Yes. So we glue our emotions to Krishna, and then we become attached. So the emotional part of our devotional service is most important. That's why we should seek out in devotional service things that actually make us happy, which fits our nature. Because this whole process is about pointing our emotions towards Krishna. Because the other two functions of the mind, the thinking part and the willing part, they are less dominant than the emotive part. That's actually the most important part of the mind. And I was reading actually yesterday, Srila Prabhupada, when he erected ISKCON, he had 7 purposes for ISKCON. Like a mission statement. He was in 1966. I mean, you should read it. It was amazing. Every time I read it, he was in a. I always think about this temple actually, because it was like a storefront. It had a sign. It was like an old. There was nothing. Actually, this temple I think is even better. But and how Srila Prabhupada conducted everything from there, and he had like already this mission, and then he had a mission statement. And the third point is to bring the members of the society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity, and thus develop the idea within the members and humanity at large that each soul is part and parcel of the quality of Godhead. That's 3. And 6 is to bring the members closer together for the purpose of teaching a simpler and more natural way of life. So 2 of his purposes start with bringing the members. So I was thinking about it, how important it is that we form a community and we treat each other nicely and we are there for each other, because it's the only way to bring our movement further. If we don't take care of each other and if we are attentive towards each other, then how can we propagate this movement? And sometimes this is very difficult because we all have our own lives and WhatsApp can be very impersonal. And if you're in a group app, you usually think, I don't need to respond. So that's, but actually Srila Prabhupada wanted us to collaborate as members of this society, in whatever gradation we are. So I was thinking how important that is, that we are nicely towards each other, we are always happy when guests come, and we try to treat everybody like the way they want to come back. Because again, the emotions. So what's most important to become Krishna consciousness? That you become happy, that you become attached to Krishna. So we should provide this kind of atmosphere that people feel wanted and loved and that they want to come back to Krishna. So, yes?
Can you elaborate more on the Turiya state?
The 4th state, Vasudev Sattva, is the transcendental mode of goodness.
Can you elaborate more on that?
I don't it's like this, our spiritual consciousness. So we can go to a transcendental mode of goodness in which our ethics, like good and evil, don't really exist like we exist in here. It's a spiritual life and the spiritual ethics. But we can only go there from the mode of goodness. So it's like Srila Prabhupada says, the plane, you take your plane from the mode of goodness and you go to the Turiya state, then you're beyond. If you take a plane and you fly off, then you will be in your spiritual consciousness and you will see the material world. There's even said that at one point you can see all your desires, but then you're not really part of it anymore. It says that the difference between a liberated soul in a body, because when you're liberated and when you're still in this body, we don't recommend suicide. So it said that the difference is when you liberate Jiva Mukta in a body, that your body is like a newspaper. Like if a newspaper is burned, then you still see the whole newspaper, but if you touch it, it just falls apart. So that's how the physical body is from a liberated soul. Well, if you're not liberated, you're in this material consciousness, then your body is still very like a vast proportion. It doesn't go away. I don't know if that was enough elaboration. I think you should listen to the seminar.
I once also heard a nice analogy with the plane, actually, comparing Krishna consciousness with an airplane. When you lift off with an airplane, all the details, first when you're on the floor, they're really very real. You can see everything. It's all very real and occupies your mind. But the more you lift off, the higher you come, the smaller it becomes, and at a certain point, all those details disappear. And that is actually the process of becoming transcendental. And that's actually a very nice effect of developing spiritual consciousness.
Yes.
That what all the things that seem so important to you when you were still on the floor, in that total material consciousness, that slowly, they just disappear.
Yeah, they become less important because you don't focus on that anymore.
Exactly.
You
That is the
yes.
solution. Not dealing with those things and trying to get rid of them. No, but going to another plane.
Yes.
Taking the plane and actually transcending it.
Yeah, we should not forget that the mind is a really important entity. We need it, but it is not us. We are not the mind. Okay, I think that's a good note to end. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Mataji ki.
So this is another, we go to the next samskara, really. Impressions, we get all these impressions. I see we do
श्री श्री करताय गोरचंद्र की
Namacharya Sila Harirasta Kuru Ki Jai. Praise go Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Sri Advaita Gadara Chivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kum Radha Kum Giri Goparana Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Sri Dwarka Dham Ki Jai. Sri Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai. Sri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Gangamay Dharmai Ki Jai. Srimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Sisi Karuna Nitai Gaura Chandra Ki Jai. Amsterdam Sunday Love Feast Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande. All glories to the Samudra Devotee. All glories to the Samudra Devotee. All glories to the Samudra Devotee. All glories to the Lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gaura Jai Sri Ram. Namaste Narasimhaya.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming for the Sunday feast. So first of all, we would like to thank Her Grace Prana Devi Mataji for the wonderful lecture. So today the lecture was more about the mind. I hope you everybody liked the lecture, and this is the first time Mataji gave the lecture. So let's give a big Hari Bol to her. Hari Bol! So today the Sunday feast is cooked by Amrita Mataji, and this Sunday feast has been sponsored by Kanik Prabhu. Let's give them a big Hari Bol. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! So we would like to know that if anybody coming to this temple for the very first time, Hare Krishna, please raise your hand. We have a special maybe.
First time this month.
Today. This week.
Then somebody, can you give some more books? Some more books? Keep your hands raised.
Yeah, keep your hands raised.
You can
English and Dutch.
keep your hands raised for the first time.
Oh, can I have some?
Yeah. Very good. So next we would like to thank our Pujari team and flower decoration. We can see the deities are very beautifully decorated. So it has been done by Prajnani Mataji. Let's give them a big Hari Bol. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Now we would like to serve the prasadam. We would like
Harinam party.
okay.
26th of December, Harinam party.
Okay.
And,
Maybe you want to say? Yeah.
And the 1st of January also.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Tomorrow we will start the Harinam tour. In Eindhoven we will start at 3:30, and then Tuesday will be also Eindhoven at 12 o'clock Central Station. Please come and join us. Will be 2 hours Harinam, then Prasadam, and then will be Kirtan evening and also Prasadam. So everyone is welcome. And Wednesday on Christmas Day will be Harinama on Den Bosch Central Station. We will meet at 12 o'clock. Also 2 hours Harinam. Book distributions. We will have now books, and who would like to help to distribute. Already donated. It's 150 books. Will arrive tomorrow to my home. So we will have enough to distribute. And also Eindhoven evening Kirtan at 6 on Wednesday. And Thursday at 12 o'clock will be Harinam in Amsterdam Central Station. At 3 o'clock Prasadam in the temple. And everyone is welcome.
Thank you. I think we have this time one important function which will be celebrating the New Year. So this time we will be celebrating the New Year in the temple from 6:30 to I think till 9 p.m. Right?
From 6 till 8:30.
6 to 8:30. Yeah. So everybody will be there in Netherlands only, so they can come to the temple. We will be celebrating the New Year. And last on first. 31st maybe more okay. One more important announcement that we know that Yadushampudi Prabhuji is helping a lot in the temple. He's making the flooring, and this week he will be doing the painting, and he might need some support. So if anybody wants to help, he can contact Yadushampati Prabhu on Thursday.
Specifically
Thursday evening.
At
7.
To remove
Things from the altar, and then he will paint, and yeah. So if anybody wants to help, and if you think that you can possibly...
Anybody thinks that, okay, I have some time there, like half an hour, please let me know.
Yeah. Okay, I think one more announcement. Most of the time forget. Nilambar Prabhu has already started that we are looking for a bigger place for ISKCON Amsterdam. We know that this place is always a little crunch of a space, and we want more bigger space where we can do more programs. So he normally do a bhajan, so we can all sing together loudly so that our wish will fulfill soon by the mercy of the Lord. Jayo Jayo Radhe, Jayo Jayo Sam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham. Jayo Jayo Radhe, Jayo Jayo Sam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham. Jayo Jayo Radhe, Jayo Jayo Sam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham. Jayo Jayo Radhe, Jayo Jayo Sam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham. Jayo Jayo Radhe, Jayo Jayo Sam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham. Jayo Jayo Radhe, Jayo Jayo Sam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham. Jayo Jayo Radhe, Jayo Jayo Sam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Very well. Thank you so much for coming once again. So we'll be serving the prasadam and we will be making 2 rows from here and here. Hare Krishna.